I was 10 years old, and we were in our family home in a small town in the south of India. It was a warm, muggy day, you know, the kind of day where just moving makes you sweat. People from the south know we live in Georgia now, minus the bugs. So I was bored. I didn't know what to do with myself. So I went around a bunch of kids, we hopped on our bikes, and we started to explore the neighborhood. I found myself standing in front of a 2-story building, huge glass windows, and the sign said, library. Mind you, this is not the first time I've been to a library, but this was different. There was something in the display of that window that made me stop. I ran inside. There were 3 magazines, which I later found out the images were of a Maasai tribal woman from Kenya, one of a geisha from Kyoto, Japan, and one of an Afghan girl. These were all National Geographic magazines. I think some of you may know that Afghan girl with the piercing green eyes. I ran inside, grabbed those magazines, everything I could find, sat on the sandy floor, flipped through the pages. And I remember looking through them for 2.5 hours, just soaking it all in. And thus began my journey of exploring the world through books. I remember leaving that library that day, and I told myself, I am going to travel the world, and I'm going to live in as many places as I can. This was big goals for a little girl from India. So I left the library. I spent every moment I could reading books. This is what I did. In my 10-year-old brain, diversity was not a term that existed. It didn't exist. It was a homogeneous culture. But I was able to understand it through exploring the world through books before I ever set foot on an airplane. I understood our similarities bring us together, but our differences make us unique. I understood those were our superpowers. Now fast forward to 2020, the pandemic happens. It was a tough time for all of us, right? And we had a 6-year-old starting kindergarten. Missed out on the entire first year of school experience, working from home, loss of jobs. You know, we were all trying to make it work. So did we. The silver lining of that situation was I got to see my little boy get curious about the world. So one day he comes running out of his little workspace and says, Mommy, what does indigenous mean? I said, why'd you ask? My teacher said kangaroos are indigenous to Australia. So I said, well, buddy, that means they are found only in that place. And then he goes, where's Australia? And I was like, uh-oh, the school system is failing. So I decided this was my call to action. I need to educate my son. And that was the distinct moment I became a children's book writer. That was my moment. Because the reason it's so important for our children to know about the world is when you know where you come from, you know where you're going. When you know where others come from, you invite them into the journey. And isn't life beautiful with others in it along the journey? And also, when you understand other cultures and the world, it gives you a quiet sense of confidence. I'll tell you why, because I've been to 45 countries. I've lived in 7 more. I have friends from all over the world. Some of them are here supporting me, who flew in from other countries. Yes to that. So the friends and the people you meet along the way become your tribe. You know, they are your people. They lift you up, they champion you. They're there for you throughout your life, no matter what happens. And that's pretty special. So you may ask me, why books? Why not YouTube, TikTok, apps, Netflix? Great, all of them great, not taking away from it. According to Center for Developing Children, between the ages of 0 and 5, 700 to 1,000 neural connections are formed in a child's brain per second. Wrap your brain around that. 700 to 1,000 neural connections. right? And this is also the time our children learn vocabulary, sense of belonging, most importantly, a sense of self and sense of others. This is the time they soak it all in. Isn't that a great time to introduce them to the diversity of this beautiful world? Yes, absolutely. That being said, Bangor University did some extensive research, which shows the knowledge that is retained in our brain through books outlasts any other source of medium. Another great reason to use books. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, why books on diversity? The US Census from 2020 shows that 48% of Americans identify as being diverse, having diverse background. 48%, half of this country. Yes, staggering. So why diversity of the world? Because the diversity exists right here in the United States. According to stopbullying.gov, 1 in 5 children have reported, I emphasize the word reported, to have been bullied. 1 in 5, look around you, that's every 5th person who may have been bullied and have reported. There are tons more who haven't reported that. When they dug deeper, the reporting was directly related to the color of their skin, their hair texture, the food they ate, the accent with which they spoke. I was bullied relentlessly growing up. So in a country that is 48% diverse, 1 in 5 children are being bullied. And we as grown-ups, parents, uncles, aunts, teachers, coaches, we owe it to our children to teach them from a very young age that the scales are not even for everyone. They are not. We owe it to them to know that this world is based on abundance and love, not on fear and deficit. No. We owe it to them because they will show up for themselves, for others, break boundaries, build bridges, and build a world that is truly inclusive. That is why we owe it to our children. That is why we need to expose them to diversity at a very young age. When those 700 to 1,000 neuro connections per second is happening, that is your window to expose them to that. So you may ask me, what do I do when I leave here today? There are many things we can do. Easiest thing, the books that I'm talking about, is just the first step. It is your window, it is your introduction to talking about this. Places like Amazon and Scholastic have curated bookshelves. But what is more important is to engage in that conversation. Travel, if you could, out of the country. If you cannot, travel within your city, your state, to areas that you may not be familiar with. Explore together. Introduce your children to art, foreign art, different art, art that you're not used to. But most importantly, have that moment where you connect, help them have those conversations that disrupts. What happens in disruption? Change happens in disruption. Growth happens in disruption. Yes. Sociologists have said that by the time a child is 3 years old, they are already preconditioned to not talk about race or diversity. 3. So let's think about this. What happens to these children? They grow up into adults who do not talk about race or diversity. These same adults could be in positions of power that impacts our health, our welfare, our social justice, our earth. So we owe it to our children that they grow up in a world where each and every one of us is celebrated, where they know that their differences are their superpower. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.